Enjoy your meeting.
Message?
Just a reminder, today's meeting is being recorded. Meeting room locked.
Yeah, I can see your message now. Great.
Okay, great. Can you do the full screen because I'm not able. One second, let me reduce my part.
Did you make it big or do you want me to make it full screen?
Yeah, can you do it bigger because I try to do the bigger screen, but I'm not. I don't know why.
Okay, 1 minute. Let me. There's only one option. Even I can't make it big. I think this is the max you can.
So this is the max.
Yeah, on your machine, how it doesn't show that big or?
No, I tried to maximize the screen.
Try do one thing on the click function Fn and F11, then it will become big on your machine. For some reason on mine I can't. Yeah.
Function
Function
F11.
Yeah.
Nope.
Still not. Okay. See this now. This presentation, does it look? This one is bigger. Now better.
Now it's better. Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. Let me make it little 90% so that I can see some content there.
No.
Okay. So we covered some of the content here the other day. We looked at the test life cycle and okay.
Yeah, can you please
we looked at the. Sorry, Hiral, what was your question?
Can you just maximize 100%?
100%. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So in the last class, we just went through some of the content about software test lifecycle. Today, we are going to cover more topics related to the same, and we have so much to cover here. So you remember we talked about different software development lifecycle phases, and there's a software test lifecycle also. And just to recollect your memory back again, and there are multiple stages again or phases for the software test lifecycle. Software test lifecycle also starts approximately when we have the requirements ready and when we have some documentation that we can access and look at the content. That's when the hold on 1 minute, I hear my echo only. Okay. So we're going to start software testing initial analysis phase or the requirement analysis phase. It starts around the inception only. As you can see, the requirements starts in the inception phase. This is a RUP model which I am showing you here. In the RUP model, you have phases little different. Instead of planning, analysis, design, implementation, and maintenance, we have 4 phases in RUP model. Inception, elaboration, construction, and transition. So you might ask me, like, do I need to remember all these so many phases with different names? You don't need to remember, but you have to look at the picture. Remember this picture. Where QA starts, where QA ends is very important. So enough with the phases. We'll go into the actual test lifecycle phase itself. So there are, if you break down, if you put things together, I would say there will be 3 phases. But in some teams, they say there are like 6 different phases for the test lifecycle. The first one is requirements capture and analysis. So this happens when the requirements are gathered, when the meetings are held, when that analysis of the requirements. By looking at the requirements, you do verification of static analysis. So from that stage, your test lifecycle has already started. Once you keep gathering and reading through so much documentation, that phase keep going on, but you won't spend like whole day to read. You might be spending very little time. If you look at the picture here, the line is pretty low. What does this line going up and down means? That means very less number of time, less number of hours we are spending to go through the documentation, and less people also. Then once you have everything ready, you can't do anything. You can't prepare your test plan because all the documents have to be completed, signed off, and everyone should agree that okay, this is the final documentation, and then from that point we take the documentation and then we start writing our test plan. So what is a test plan? It is a huge document gathered with all the content from different system requirement document or business requirement document, from software architecture design document. Like that, from all the documents we capture all the important information that we can test. We will put it in a test plan in an order. We will see at the end like how what are the contents in a test plan and go through them in detail. That is very important because as a tester, you will write test plan and you will present it to all your team members. Once they say the test plan is good, that's when you start writing test cases. Once again you will review the test cases. If the test cases are all good, then only they will let you continue with the testing. So test planning, in test planning phase, all we do is write the test plan and present it to all our team members. After that, you go to a test designing phase. So test design means test case design. It's nothing but you have to write all the test cases based on the documentation you have captured. So we talked about different systems like front-end system, database. As I told you, when I took the example of hotels.com, you have front page, and in the middle you have another landing page where you see multiple hotels. After you click on a hotel, you go to actual hotel information page. Like that, each page is like a different application itself because it's getting content from some other different place and putting it together. So now for each page, you have to write test cases. If you start, are you able to see my machine? Hiral, you there?
Yes, Varun?
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I'm able to see your screen.
Oh my God, error message. Let me know if you can't. Okay.
I'm sorry?
Let me know if you can't see my screen.
Okay.
And okay. So test cases will be written based on the requirements. After that, you need to run the test cases, execute the test cases. That means you have to follow step by step. Just now we saw this application imeet.com. Okay, I wanted to share my screen. We are trying so much content there. See, they might have not tested properly, so some of the features are really bad. But it's cheap software, but that testing might not have been done aggressively. So you can take any real life example and you can test on your own and figure out what's working versus what's not working and why. So in test environment setup, what you do, you make sure this application is ready. So you checked in 2 different browsers there. On Chrome, it's not working because it needs more plugins. So that is browser-based testing. So what you mean by environment? Installing the browser on your machine where you can test it. If you don't have the browser, how are you going to test a website? You can't. So you need to install a browser first. You will install Internet Explorer. You will install Apple Safari, Chrome, Microsoft, Mozilla Firefox. Like that, you have all these different browsers. So getting everything ready is environment setup. Like that, data also. You need data. What type of data you are going to type in the website and get the results? That also you need to decide upfront. Where do you put that information? In the test cases. Okay. Once we have written all the test cases for all the requirements, now we have 50 requirements, let's suppose. And for each requirement, you can have 1 or more test cases always. So what generally I do is, like many people go in a different direction, but for each requirement, I will develop a scenario. Scenario means a requirement if it says if you can search a hotel to the site. So I'll write a scenario that validate that you can search a hotel from the website. That's a simple scenario. Now test cases. Different types of test cases can come into picture. The scenario just is simple. Your test case, you can use numbers to search for a hotel name. Okay, you have Super 10 or like that, right? Motel 6. So those are motels there. You want searching for something. You don't remember motel, and you type number and see whether the search is getting the hotels with that number also. That is one test case. You can search only with the names, Hilton, like that. And you can use both numbers and alphabets also together, like Motel 6 or Super 10, like that. That way, what you are doing, you are creating 3 different types of test cases. You are searching, still searching, but you are using different type of data. That becomes a test case. Okay, and in test case, what you do, you will have test steps. Each step you will write, go here, do this, go here, do this, like that. So if somebody like me, whatever test case you have written, and I want to test it, I will follow step by step and see whether it executed or not. That is test execution. So in test execution phase, we'll go one step by step and complete the process. Test cycle closure. So once you tested everything, 50 requirements are there. You have 150 test cases. You execute all the test cases. Everything is passed now. Some of them failed. There were some defects. Then developer fixed it. Everything is working now. The final stage is test lifecycle closure. Sorry. So what is test lifecycle cycle closure? Means that you have completed all your testing. Planning is done. Design is done. Execution is done. Now I'm saying that I'm completed with all testing. Can you also verify, like you present it all your team members and tell them, okay, I'm done. Now you validate and let me know if I'm missing something. If they say, okay, you very good, you completed all the requirements testing, we can give you a sign off. The moment you get a sign off, that means the test cycle has closed. Why you will have multiple test cycles? For example, if you have like 100 defects that you found for 150 test cases, you found 100 defects. The developers fixed 90 of them, but 10 of them are, they can't do it at this point. They will have to do it in a different later stage. Like if today, this is July. So they say, okay, we can't fix these 10 defects right now. We'll get you back, in August. So this test cycle 1 is done with 90 defects. You retest it, done and close it. In test cycle 2, you will test the remaining bugs first, the 10 bugs. Then you do some regression testing. Means whatever you have done before, you will try to do it. You will not do all of them, not all 150 test cases, but you will at least pick some of them, like 30 to 40% of them, which are very important, and regression testing. That is test cycle closure. Okay. Now, without test life cycle, this is how we have looked at this picture in the past. So this is how the test, without a test life cycle, this is how you will visualize a project. You don't know where to start, where to complete, what a team needs, what documentation has to be done, what kind of testing you need to do. So it's all messy. So with the test life cycle, everything is in order. We make sure we go in a particular order as the phases. Okay. So again, in the phases, I've broken down into multiple stages again. Here, we looked at test planning, analysis, design, construction and verification, test cycle, and final testing, post-implementation. After test cycle, we're also making sure, again, everything is good, and post-implementation, like after the code goes into production, you might have some issues, some bug somewhere. That is post-implementation validation. That happens very rarely. You will have change tickets. The tickets are given to you, production tickets. That is post-implementation validation. Okay, let's go through each different phase. Let's see, and I'll read through the content. Stop me if you have any questions. So in requirement analysis, what do we do? It's a very first step in software testing lifecycle. In this step, quality assurance team understands the requirement in terms of what we will be testing and figure out the testable requirements. So you have 50 requirements. Out of 50, if you can test 45 of them, 5 of them are untestable. Like, for example, if there is a requirement, it asks you that if the internet is down or something happens, some calamity happens, how are you going to back up the data? There might be some requirements like that. But how do you test it? Unless you are in the real-time scenario, you can't test it. But the steps will be created to make sure That, when that kind of rare scenario happens, we can proceed forward. But can you test them? No, unless you have to have a, unless it's a very high secure project where a lot of information will be lost. In those cases, we will try to create those scenarios, but there will be untestable requirements. Now, password encryption. Whatever password you type, you will see in a character, like a star or something. Okay? Why do they do that? They are protecting the password. So do you want to decrypt it? That means whatever you type on the screen, you should be able to see it. But if you decrypt, what's going to happen? Now, hackers will be there. They will capture this information, and password will be missed. So you can't test that requirement. It's very risky. Now, if any conflict, missing or not understood with any requirement content, then QA team will follow up with the various stakeholders like business analyst, system architecture, client, technical manager. So whatever you don't understand from the requirements, don't think that you can, you can't proceed further. You might have to reach out to your team members and get more information and start writing the test cases. From the very first step, QA is involved, where STLC, which helps to prevent the introducing defects into software under test. So, advantage of this is by looking at the documentation from the beginning gives you time, okay, enough time to read through the requirement. Requirement is nothing but what business really wants. You are trying to create something for the business, for the company to make money. In order to do that, they have to create this project. So by doing the project, you are helping the project team succeed by making sure that you understand the business. So by involving, you are helping them. The requirements can be functional or non-functional, like performance, security testing. So these are non-functional requirements. That means there will be separate performance team, separate security testing team who will do more testing. And functional will be on the content rather than the business logic or content or like that, not like performance or security. Also, requirements and automation feasibility of the project can be done in this stage. So by looking at the requirements, we'll make sure whether we can automate the QA testing process anywhere. Now, remember these things. First, everything has to happen in a sequential order. If the first one happens, then only it will go to the second stage. If the second stage is complete, then only it will go to the third stage. For requirements capture and analysis, your entry criteria is requirement specification, means business requirement document or system requirement document or any application architectural documents like that. And what do you do in this phase? Prepare the list of questions or queries and get resolved from business analyst, system architecture, client, technical manager, lead, etc. Make out the list for what all types of tests perform, like functional, security, and performance, etc. Discuss the testing focus and define the testing focus and priorities. So you will identify by reading the requirements, you will understand what can be tested, what can't be tested, is the testing focus. And priority means if you know out of 50, 45 requirements can be tested, in that 10 requirements are very, very critical. That means you are testing first you will do is test those 10 critical requirements, because those are very important for the business. Now for iMeet application, if I can't share my screen or if you can't hear me properly and there is some buffer or any disturbance, those are like the critical requirements, because I won't purchase a subscription of this training software if it doesn't perform well. Now after recording, our recording should be clean and crisp with no sound. That means that they have designed a very good product. Otherwise, I will not purchase their software subscription. I'll go for something else. So testing, when they do that, they will have to test everything and make sure everything is working fine. Okay. Now also, what are the deliverables? Means entry, what do you need? What do you do in this phase? Then what is your output? Input, output, in the middle, what all you do. Like think in that fashion. Your output will be input for next phase. Deliverable, you are asking list of questions with all answers to be resolved from business, that is testable requirements, automation, feasibility report if applicable. Okay, ignore automation at this point, you will get confused. Now test planning. What is test planning phase? Is the most important phase of all phases. In this phase, typically a test manager or test lead, based on company to company, involved to determine effort and cost estimates for the entire project. So here you're not writing document first. The first thing you're doing is you're estimating the effort. Means how much time it's going to take, how much money it's going to cost based on the time, how many people are available for me right now. How do you think they hire testers once in a while whenever project starts? Because based on estimates they figure out that they need more number of people. As they get people, then they make sure that budget is allocated for that person, for that project. Then they can make sure the work progresses. In this phase will be kicked off once the requirement gathering phase is completed and based on the requirement analysis, and after you start preparing the test plan. The result of test planning phase will be test plan or test strategy. Once test planning phase is completed, the QA team can start with test case development activity. Okay, let's look at the picture here again for test planning phase. What is your input, entry criteria, requirements documents, more clarity in them, automation feasibility report coming from the previous one. Now activities. You define objective and scope of project. What is objective? Your objective of testing. What is your testing objective? That means you know out of 50 you can only test 45. So when you know that you can't test 5 of them, what's the point in including those 5 requirements in your test plan? You can't. So you will tell them I'll be able to test 45 of them. 5 of them are untestable. That's what you're going to write in this document. And list down the testing types involved in the STLC. What are the different testing types I will be doing? Where to start, where to end. Now again, in this phase, we look at the estimation and resource planning. Selection of testing tool. What kind of tool do I need? Do I need Quality Center? Do I need a Quick Test Pro? Like that. Define a testing process overview. Means we go through step-by-step content. Where to start, where to end. In the middle, there are a lot of activities that are happening. But unless we write down everything step by step, we will not do in the correct, proper format. We want to make sure the process completes in the same order. Testing process. That means I need to go to the test plan first, then test cases, design test cases, then execute test cases, then test cycle closure. That information you are putting in the document. Define the test environment required for the entire project. Where am I going to test? In dev environment or QA environment or in UAT environment? That you will define here. Prepare the test schedules. So when am I going to start with my test planning? When I am going to start with the test design? When will I complete with the test design? Where to start execution? Like that, you prepare another chart which tells you like where you are starting and where you're going to end. So that way your work will be tracked. Okay. For example, if you identify that you have to write a lot of test cases, like 500 test cases in span of 5 days, that means every day you have to write like 100 test cases. Technically, is it possible? It's going to be very tough. So you have to have a clear idea whether you can complete that or not. Based on that, you will prepare your test schedules. You are going to define the control procedures. Control procedures are nothing but where to start, how to start, what are the steps we need to follow. Those are all control procedures. Those are like related to the process. Define roles and responsibilities. That means who is going to be the lead, who will be the tester. If you have 3 testers and I am the lead, tester 1, you go and test the first page. Tester 2, you go test the second page. Tester 3, go to third page. Like that, I am assigning work. That is roles and determining the roles and responsibilities. List down the testing deliverables. What are you going to get out of this particular phase? That you're going to not only phase by testing this entire project, that will be defined in the testing deliverable documents. Okay. Ignore this content here. Define the entry criteria, suspension, resumption, and this point. That means like if something happens, can we continue or cancel it? So as a tester, you don't need to worry about this. This will be handled by a test project manager or a test lead who is more senior. Okay. So what are the outputs of this particular phase? A test plan or a test strategy document, testing effort estimation document. That means there is a document you will have, for example, if I have to test a page, a simple page with 10 links, I will say 1 day. That is our estimate. Like it might take 1 day. How do you calculate whether somebody is telling whether if they can test a website in 5 days or 10 days or 15 days? You, based on the work, you need to estimate. If you know if the entire project takes you 15 days or maybe 1 month, and the person has estimated like 3 or 4 months, that means you know that it's overestimated. So this estimation document is very critical. We don't want to go over budget. We want to keep everything under budget with all the deliverables properly delivered by the end of the project. Are you clear till here, Iral?
But on one question, in activities, the last define the risk involved, if any. So, and what is that mean?
Yeah, sorry, I missed it. So risk involved means if there is any risk to your project. By testing this, is there any risk? What is the risk? What is the risk there? Risk means something which might occur unknowingly or knowingly, and it might break by. That is the risk. So in your case, by default that there are 50 requirements. I'm testing 45 only, and the 5 requirements are very important ones, like very untestable requirements, but they might be very important. Now you can't test it, but you are taking a risk there by not testing it. That is the risk. You are defining the risk and telling people, okay, I'm not testing this, but there is a risk involved there because of not doing that. In some cases, what will happen is if you have to finish testing and you estimate like 2 or 3 months, but they want you to do it in everything in 1 month. That means you have to do quickly. When you do that, you can't test everything. You have to skip some of them. You will come with high priority requirement first, then medium, then low priority requirements. That's how you will go in order. If you have time, you will do it. Otherwise, you will stop it after 1 month is done, and the code will go to production. And in the document, in a test plan document, you will say there is risk involved because I haven't done a full end-to-end testing. I did risk-based testing. That means based on the risk, I'm priority. I'm doing my testing.
Okay, so we have to mention everything in document, right?
You have to mention. You will have a template. Okay, the template will have all the content. In the template, you will fill the information relevant to your project. When you join a project in real time, you will be given lots of documents to read for 1 week or so. In the meantime, you will get access to your computer and all the applications like that. That will go on. And after that, once you have everything ready, they'll ask you to start writing the test plan.
Okay.
By 2nd week or 3rd week, they will give you a document, and you will take a template, start filling out the information. Once test plan is done, then again you'll follow all the steps and go to testing. If you are really lucky, you will have a lot of time reading the documents only. Now, Madhavi, she attended my previous class also, like she listened here and there whenever she gets a chance. She does freelance projects, okay? So she, in the freelance projects that she is working on right now, she got an opportunity where she has to work for like a stretch of 2 or 3 weeks for a particular website, and she has been testing it. And I'm giving an example. And now situation is like that there are so much content and the functionality is so much there. She can't complete everything on time, and she knows that very well. So she came up with only the high critical ones where the business will be more concentrating on. Only those ones she's testing. So in the document she has created, she has put all this content there. I'm giving a real life example. Okay.
Got it. So sometimes we get.
Go ahead. What's your question?
She got a job like a freelance job, right? So that's good, right? But how about all the documents? She gets all the details via online?
No. So this is one of my other friend. He created a website, and he created a business actually. The website is a site, to develop some particular software, and he wanted somebody to test it. Then I, recommended Madhavi. So when Madhavi got his work, she doesn't have any documentation because they developed the website. The developers did that. They don't know what can be tested there. They don't have any, she doesn't have any documentation. The developers just wrote the code based on what my friend wanted to build. So now somebody has to test it. She doesn't have any requirements. But in a real-time project, you will have all documentation.
Right.
Without documentation, you can't understand the project. You can't understand. You have to play around with the application, then you will understand. But imagine if you don't have anything there, and as I told you, in a real-time project, you will start writing your test plan at the same time when developers start writing the coding. That means the application is not ready yet. When the application is not ready, what's going to happen? You don't see anything. All you know is the written text only. So where can you see and understand the business? Only through the requirements. If you understand the requirements, then you can automatically create better test cases. Test designer, can be very good when you put more details, come up with different scenarios. Anybody can become a tester. It's very easy to become a QA tester. But becoming an efficient one, a tester who can, come up with different scenarios that might really happen or may not even happen, but you are making sure you test all possibilities. That's where you become a very good tester and efficient one. Okay. So in test case development, what do we do? This is also one of the critical phase after test planning. And this is the phase where STLC, where testing team write down the detailed test cases. Along with the test cases, testing team also prepare the test data if any required for testing. Okay. When I'm using test team because there will be multiple people. There might be a situation where you might be the only tester, but it might happen. Once the test cases are all ready, that means you write everything, then these test cases are reviewed by the peer members or QA lead. And after reviewing, you will also do a requirement traceability matrix. I will show you a document. What is requirement traceability document? That means you will see the requirements. How many of the requirements have a matching test case? In Quality Center, you can do that. If you have to do it in Excel also. So by doing this, you will see how many of them are tested. Requirements testing is complete or not at the end of the project. But you will fill this particular sheet as you work on test cases. Okay, an example of requirement will be something like this. Let's see. Traceability. Okay. Do you see any traceability word here? Let me find the document for you. So in that, it's an Excel sheet where you can see all the requirements on left side and test case on the top. They will have numbers there. Yeah, traceability matrix map. So this document will be something like this. Here you will have requirement numbers, you will have project name, project manager name, all the content there, and instructions are general by default, and you will write the requirement number and write the technical association, and you keep on adding the content here. That way you can see how many requirements have been tested, how many are pending, like that. You will have all the information together. If you have all the requirements and some of them have gaps here, that means that they are not covered. Okay? And here the requirements are on this side, and here on this side you have the test case numbers. If you want to know, like how many of them mapped versus not mapped. Okay, test case numbers will be there, lie in order. If a requirement doesn't have any test case, this row will be blank there. Do you get it? In the software, I will also show you whether how you need to map the requirements to a test case. So going back to our presentation. Now, in test case development, what is the entry criteria? Requirements documents. Again, the requirement documents keep on getting updated as you even work. They will see sometimes, when you meet, communicate, there will be loss of some data or information captured, In that case, they will have to update the documents again and again to make sure the requirements are captured properly. So your inputs are requirements documents. What are your activities? You are preparing the test cases. And you are preparing the test automation scripts. And also you are requisiting test data preparation for executing test cases. You do all these steps in test case development phase or test designing phase. What are your deliverables or outputs? Your test case will be complete. Test data will be ready. Test automation scripts will be done if required. That means if you are an automation tester, you will do the test automation scripts also. Now, test environment setup. What is test environment setup? Setting up the test environment is vital part of the SDLC. Basically, test environment decides on which conditions the software is tested. This is an independent activity and can be started parallel with test case development. In process of setting up test environment, test team is not involved in it. You see that highlighted. So we don't set up the environment. There will be a separate team who will make sure all the applications are installed there and you are able to use the environment. When you say environment, what is your browser doing? It's trying to connect to the internet. In that case, what is your environment? The environment is the entire web itself. But if you disconnect the internet and you only browse applications on your laptop, that is your local machine. That is your environment. Where you work is your environment. So for us to do work and test all the requirements, we need a separate machine, a test server or QA server, where we test everything there. Why do you do it in separate server for each environment? Reason? We want to make sure it works in this box, that box, and many boxes before it goes into the production. We don't want a bad product. First, in dev, we do unit testing. In QA, you do integration testing and system testing. In UAT environment, that is a different server, you do user acceptance testing. By the time of production, you do some pre-production validation or performance testing, security testing like that in another environment on a different server. Imagine that server is nothing but your machine, just like a machine. A laptop is also can be a server, a local host server. Okay. And also based on company to company, there might be a developer or there might be a separate environment support team which will set up the environment for us to execute the test cases. Meanwhile, while they prepare, our testing team will prepare the smoke test cases to check the readiness of the test environment setup. That means we'll write some test cases, not only for the requirements. We will see if the test environment is supporting us or not. Just to run on the browser, wherever if you copy iMeet link and put it on the browser, that means that's one type of test you are doing there. Without unknowingly you are doing it. So if you say that there are 4 applications, all applications can be accessed by the browser, you will try to validate that before after it's ready for us to start testing, before execution. Now, what are the entry criteria for test environment setup? The test plan is available. Smoke test cases are available. Smoke test case means wherever it might fail, just like a smoke in a forest, wherever there will be smoke won't be everywhere in the forest, only certain places suddenly. So that way you are making sure wherever it might fail, those only will be tested. What are your activities? You are analyzing the requirements and prepare the list of software and hardware that is required to set up test environment. Set up the test environment. Once the test environment is set up, execute the smoke test case. Now what is our role as a tester? We are only executing smoke test case. Who will prepare the environment? Developers or an environment support team. If it's a big organization, developers can't do it. They have a lot of work. So we will give it a separate support team to do that. What is the output of this particular phase? Test environment will be ready with test data. Result of smoke test cases. Pass or fail. Okay? Execution. Now test execution is also critical. This is where you actually test everything. Okay? Once the preparation of test case development and test environment setup is completed, then test execution phase can be kicked off. In this phase, testing teams start executing test cases based on prepared test planning and prepared test case in the prior step. Once the test case is passed, then the same can be marked as passed in Quality Center or some other application. If any test case is failed, then corresponding defect can be reported to developer team via bug tracking system like defect module in Quality Center or Jira or Bugzilla, like that. Okay. What is a Bugzilla? Now, if you look at this one here, this is a Firebug. This is also one type of bug application. Now, what is Firebug doing here? It is automatically looking at your website and identifying some errors directly. You are not testing anything, but it will do it. This is automation. So Firefox has created this Firebug. But where do you report it? There will be some other location where you do that. See, these are all the technical information. If you know it, it will be fantastic. It will tell you where it failed, why it failed, what can be fixed. These are different types of code. But it is telling you that particular one XML is not working. Another XML, like it gave you some information what is working versus what is not working. Going back to our situation, the presentation. Ideally, every failed test case should be associated with at least single bug. Means if there are 3 defects that you have seen in Fire that browser, that means 3 defects should be raised for different scenario, but at least 1 bug minimum for one test case that is failed. Once the bug is fixed by development team, then same test case can be executed by your test planning. What does this mean? Now bugs means the code has some problem. Somebody has to fix it. Who will fix it? Developers will fix it. And we are testing again to see that he has done it or not. Our job is, making sure to go and, the application is working fine or not after the fixes happen. If any of the test cases are blocked due to any defect, then such test case can be marked as blocked. Blocked means if there is a defect, can't be fixed right now. Okay, we know that it's failing, but we can't fix it. For example, you have Oracle database, version 11G, 12G, like that. Now 11G has some features, 12G is upgraded version. It might have more features. So suppose you have a problem with your database in 11G, but it might work in 12G. You can do is create a bug and make it as blocked and defer. Defer means, okay, when we install 12G, that's when I can test this bug, whether it's resolved or not. It might work in some other version. So you're blocking. When you say blocking, you're telling, I know that there is a problem, but it's not testable now. It has to be tested sometime later in the future. That is block. Once all the defects are fixed, then only your test execution is complete. Otherwise, it's not complete. If you have any failed test case and bugs are pending, that means your test execution phase is not complete yet. You are still testing it. And you will have a limitation, how much time you can continue testing. Okay, and we can also get a report based on how many test cases are passed, failed, blocked, or not run. Not run means we didn't even execute it yet. In Quality Center, I'll show you how to do that. Once the defects are fixed, some same failed or blocked test case can be executed again to retest the functionality. You are just making sure if it's working fine after the fixes happen. Or if the fixes didn't happen, you'll still see the same error message, same bug. Okay. Now, what is the entry criteria? Your test plan is ready. It's complete. Your test cases are written. You have test data in your test environment. All you need to do is execute. Based on the test planning, you execute the test case first. You modify the test case status passed, failed, or blocked. Then assign a bug ID for failed test cases. Do retesting once the defects are fixed. So every time you'll have a weekly defect cycle. That means every week you identify all the defects. The developer can't look at each and every defect and stuck with it. He has to do other work also. What does they do? We say let us on Friday meet again and identify all the defects that are failing and work from there. So we are setting up separate time to make sure the content is validated. Now do retesting once the defects are fixed. Track the defects to closure. Means test everything, retest everything, and then close the defect, saying that now it's working fine. If it's working fine. If it doesn't, then modify the status back to again say that bug. And there are different types of defect status you have. And what each status means, we will be looking in one of the slides there. Okay. What is the output of test execution process? You execute all the test cases and you will have a report. You have 150 test cases. Out of them, how many passed, how many failed? If they are failed, what are the bugs? And if the bugs are fixed, then how did you retest? And all that will be in the report. And there will also be a defect report. Okay, you can capture all the bugs created for a project. That will be the bug defect report or bug report. Defect and bug is one and the same, functionality wise. Now, what is the last phase? Test cycle closure. Now you're done. Now you call out the testing team member meeting within your team. Evaluate cycle completion based on test coverage, quality, cost, time, critical business objectives, and software. So these are all the different parameters, and there might be more parameters. Based on it, you will meet everybody and let them know that you have done. Okay. Now after that, we'll have post mortem, or what you call as discuss like what worked for us, what didn't work, how can we fix any issues in the process, like that. Okay. Now discuss what all went good, which area needs to be improved, taking the lessons from current STLC as input to upcoming test cycles, which will help to improve bottleneck in the STLC process. Unless we learn from our mistakes, we can't correct ourselves. Same way, in the process wise, if there are any mismanagement of the process, we'll correct them in the next cycle. Test case and bug report will analyze to find out the defect distribution by type and severity. Once complete the test cycle, then test closure report and test metrics will be prepared. What are test metrics? Measuring is metric. You will have test metrics also once the project is closed and that means testing is done. You define how many are caught, like the numbers you are talking about. I have created 150 test cases. Out of them, I have tested 140 of them, 10 pending. These are all called as metrics, measurement. Test result analysis to find out the defect distribution by type and severity. What is defect distribution? I have identified, let's say 50 test cases, 50 defects. In that, 10 of them are high priority ones, means that needs immediate fix. Another 5 of them are severe, means they are also very important. Like that. In test cycle closure, what is your input? Your execution is complete. You will have a test case execution report. You will have a defect report. Now, what all the activities you would do? A test lead will, you will do that. Evaluate cycle completion criteria based on test coverage, quality, cost, time, critical business objectives, and software. Prepare test metrics based on the above parameters. So there might be more parameters also. Prepare test closures report. Share best practices for any similar projects in the future. What are the final deliverables? Test closure report, test metrics. Any questions? Hiral?
Test metrics means test all the measurement for the design.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Test metrics means test all the measurement.
Yes, all the measurements, like how many test case you have written, how many of them passed, how many failed, how many defects you found out, like that. Everything will be with a number based.
Okay. Got it.
In quality center, you can generate these reports. You will have options to generate them. I will show you in that tool. So outside, when we talk about this documentation, you need to understand these concepts. While going through quality center, we'll have so much content, and we'll go through them and see what can we do there. You need to know quality center just like as you write a Word. In Word document, what you do, you type your, whatever document. You know Word very easily. Similarly, quality center is like that. You need to learn each and every bit of quality center. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to be successful.
Okay.
So while going there, I'll show you how to generate a test method report. There are some already designed reports there. All you need to do is regenerate point to. There will be many projects, obviously. All the projects will be put in the quality center. Quality center tool is like a big folder which has multiple files in it. Each file is a project, just like that. So in that, you want to run only metrics for your project. So you need to select in your report or like that. Just an example. Okay. Before continuing with the test plan document itself, I think I'm going a little fast here, but I'm planning to cover these 2 days content, like 50 slides, in the next 3 or 4 days. Do you want to go slowly or do you want me to go faster?
Slowly, please.
Sorry?
Slowly.
So far you have understood all the different phases. Now test plan, we haven't gone through the document. Now this might be the right time to stop, but it's too early and we already lost like 15 minutes before starting. So we covered like 1 hour. Now if we start test plan, we have so much content in it, like what are the contents in a test plan, what needs to be written. So I think I shared this document to you. You can go through the document which I shared. And there are, so much steps. And now each step, what does it mean? I'll take some examples like that. There is a lot of content. Once we are done with the test plans, all the content here, then we'll go into test case. So that will be the next step. Like that. So if I start looking at it, you will get confused. Do you want me to halt it here for today or do you want me to continue? It's up to you. I'm going very slowly with you because I want to make sure you understand everything.
Right. I want to understand everything because I don't want to be confused, so that's why.
Yeah. There are people teach just to finish it, but in your case, here particularly mentioned that you are non-IT background, so I want to make sure that you understand. Now we are at the point of test plan. What you can do for me is go through the content here in the presentation, the test plan related content before coming to the class. I'll share the documents to you upfront only. When you read these documents and when you listen what I'm explaining, it will be easy for you to remember the concepts easily.
Right.
So after we complete all the documentation in here, then the next step will be you will have a homework and we'll do the practical process of writing a test plan. I will write in front of you. Then you will have to do a homework. Then we will write test case in quality center. So after that it will be practical. This will complete the theoretical knowledge completely. So let's go slowly. And if you want, I can continue with the test plan. I don't want to confuse you. What I can do is, since we have some time, I'll halt the training here. Okay. I'll show you some documents actually. I'll give homework and my previous batches, they have done some homework and our documentation ready for them. Let me think about this is the application we'll use for testing though. Looking at an example of one of my student written. I can't find it here. I don't know if I've downloaded it or not. Homeworks. Yeah.
It's a homework folder, right?
Yeah, here. So one of the other, I'll show you some example. Like these people have written and I've reviewed them. I correct their test plans also. When they write, I'll go to the content and see how they've written. So the test plan will be something like this: a document, a template. You will have, I'll show you some templates also.
So tester has to make all the documents in Word or in Excel?
In Word. Test cases will be in Excel or Quality Center. These days, nobody is using Excel. Even you write in Excel, you can import them. Don't worry about import, but most of them, what they are doing is write directly in Quality Center. I'll show you Quality Center also now, just to see where we are going. So this is a test plan written by one of my tester and trainee. So you have to fill. I gave a project to them, a live project. They have, based on that, they have written all the content, purpose, project overview. All the. Some of them will be already there. Some of them you have to write down. Assumptions, you have to add to the existing content. Template means it will not be complete unless you write the important pieces relevant to your project. The project which we will do is Orange HRM 3.0, which is application, and you will have access to it, and I'll give you link, all access everything to you, and you need to go through that and write the. I'm giving you application in advance, but generally in real time you will not see the application. All you will see is document. Okay. So this is a sample document here. You will get all this material. Don't worry. You are not there yet. I want to show you is Quality Center. Takes time. So getting the software is very difficult, Hiral. So I wanted to put it somewhere on my site, but there is licensing issues also. We can't put it on a server for everybody to access it. You have to buy a commercial license, which is thousands of dollars.
Oh my God.
I can't really afford that much to train my students. I will, while in the class only, what I do is I'll let students to share my computer and give them access. They will write the test case in front of them. Generally, I do that. Okay. Restart the database.
So for practice, should I get software details or?
The practice, it's very difficult. That's what I'm telling you. Like this version is 10.0. The latest version now is 12.0. Quality Center. They call something else now. The name also changed. But the inside everything remains same. But the naming and there are some new features they have added like that. In practice, how we are going to do that? That's going to be very challenging. What I'll do is I'll share my machine to you. You can practice in front of me by writing the test cases. That way I can show you and let you do it practice. I'll take time for you actually. I thought of finishing in fast.
You don't give any access to your student to do practice?
No. The reason is with the license problem.
Because I heard about, if you take the training from any other consulting company, so they're allowed to give access to do practice, right?
Not all. Nobody does that. The reason is from India, they might do that because they crack the code and do that. But I don't want to take a risk. But I'll let you, as I told you, I'll let you, if you want, I'll give you in like 1 hour time, go ahead and leave my computer and you can practice on the machine directly. Because it's installed on the machine, I don't need to worry about any other licensing issues. And I don't think anybody else actually give access directly to you. They will only give you theoretical knowledge. They won't let you practice also. They'll give you screenshots. Do this, do this, do this. Yeah. Then nobody gives access to directly to actual software itself. I got this from some other location.
Because programming